This video tutorial is all about human influences on the environment. And we're going to begin by looking at two gases, sulfur dioxide and carbon monoxide. So first of all, sulfur dioxide. When we undergo combustion of fossil fuels that contain sulfur impurities, this ends up creating sulfur dioxide. And there's a molecule of sulfur dioxide represented in the top right corner of the slide in front of you. Now, this sulfur dioxide molecule is released into the atmosphere, where it combines with oxygen to form sulfur trioxide, and that's shown in the bottom right corner of the slide in front of you. Now, sulfur trioxide dissolves in water droplets in clouds and forms acid rain. Now, acid rain is not good news. It leaches minerals and nutrients out of the soil, and that can cause plants and trees to die. It damages the waxy cuticle on leaves, and it makes rivers and our oceans and lakes too acidic, resulting in the death of certain aquatic life. Carbon monoxide is produced when fossil fuels burn in limited amounts of air, so they undergo incomplete combustion. On the slide in front of you is an equation representing this process. So we've got a hydrocarbon, which is just a molecule made up of hydrogen and carbon, burning in not enough oxygen, resulting in the formation of carbon monoxide. Now, again, carbon monoxide is not good news. The reason for this is because it binds irreversibly to hemoglobin, which is in your red blood cells, which reduces the amount of oxygen that the red blood cells are able to carry in your blood. Now, because less oxygen is being delivered to the cells in your body for respiration, you're not going to be able to release as much energy. So you're going to end up feeling more tired. And actually, if you're exposed to too higher concentrations of carbon monoxide, so you've sort of got this prolonged exposure, that can lead to both unconsciousness and actually, in the worst case scenario, death. If you're exposed to carbon monoxide when pregnant, this can disrupt the growth and development of the fetus, as less oxygen is able to get across through that placenta and to the baby for respiration. We're now going to look at greenhouse gases and the enhanced greenhouse effect. So a greenhouse gas is a gas that absorbs infrared radiation so that it remains trapped in the Earth's atmosphere. Now, it's really important that we have greenhouse gases, because if we didn't have any greenhouse gases, the Earth would be a frozen planet. So it's really important we do have greenhouse gases so that the Earth is warm enough to sustain life. The problem is we now have far too many greenhouse gases, and the levels of greenhouse gases has risen beyond what is normal, and that's what's leading to the Earth's average temperature rising beyond the norm. So this diagram is just showing this process again. So we've got the sun's sort of rays, radiation coming into the Earth. So the sun emits short wavelengths of radiation, or ultraviolet radiation, which is absorbed by the Earth. The Earth will then re-emit at a longer wavelength. So that will be at infrared, which is like heat energy. So that energy is going to come from the Earth's surface. Greenhouse gases in the atmosphere will then absorb that energy and actually will re-radiate the longer wave radiation. So as a result, the heat is retained within the atmosphere, which leads to an increase in global temperatures. Now, we want that to be the case to ensure that we don't have a frozen Earth, but actually, because we've got too many greenhouse gases now, the concentration's got too high, that's leading to an enhanced greenhouse effect. So we'll just run through that once more. The Earth emits radiation that enters the Earth's atmosphere. Sorry, the sun emits radiation that enters the Earth's atmosphere. The heat energy is going to reflect back from the Earth's surface. Some of that energy is going to reflect straight out back to space, but some is absorbed by the greenhouse gases and is trapped within the Earth's atmosphere, which is normal. However, as the levels of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere rise due to human activities, the Earth's average temperature is rising beyond normal. And that's what's causing global warming. Now, you need to be familiar with a number of different greenhouse gases. Firstly, water vapour, which comes from sort of evaporation from rivers, lakes, and the ocean. Carbon dioxide, which comes from like car exhausts or industrial processes, burning of fossil fuels, etc., and is rising even more due to deforestation. So plants undergo photosynthesis, whereby they convert carbon dioxide and water into glucose and oxygen, thus reducing the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. But as we cut down trees for timber or clearing land for farming, that process is reduced. So we're not taking in as much carbon dioxide. Methane can be produced naturally through rotting plants in marshland, or through sort of man-made sources such as like rice paddies. Growing rice releases methane, and also so does cattle. So cattle rearing will increase the amount of methane in our atmosphere. Nitrous oxide. So natural sources of nitrous oxide include bacteria in the soil and the oceans, and man-made sources come from the soils, from the use of fertilizers, and also sort of industrial processes and vehicle engines, and so through the burning of fossil fuels. And finally, CFCs. Now, CFCs are a really powerful greenhouse gas. Man-made sources of CFCs include aerosol sprays and from our fridges. And the big problem with CFCs is they damage the ozone layer, creating holes which cause more UV light to reach humans. Now, if you'd like a little bit more time on this slide, just pause the presentation now. We're going to look at how human activities contribute to greenhouse gases and the consequences of global warming due to this enhanced greenhouse effect. So firstly, we see ocean temperatures increasing. Now, when the ocean temperatures increase, we see melting of polar ice caps, rising of the sea levels, and increased flooding as well as coral bleaching. Increased temperatures can cause extreme weather, so superstorms and more floods, more droughts. And these extreme weather events can cause changes to habitats, or in some cases, complete loss of habitats. Now, if you lose habitats, this can result in a decrease in biodiversity as food chains are disrupted and extinction rates increase. Ultimately, this could increase migration of species to new places, which might lead to an increase in pests or even disease. An example of increased disease in the UK might be where we start to see the temperatures rising so much that mosquitoes can survive well here, and those mosquitoes carrying malaria specifically. So we might end up with diseases such as malaria in the UK. So what can we do to slow down the enhanced greenhouse effect? Well, we can reduce the use of fossil fuels, so that's coal, oil, and natural gas, as burning these releases carbon dioxide, which is a major greenhouse gas. We can increase our use of alternative energy sources, so such as nuclear, wind, and solar. By doing this, it means we'll be using less fossil fuels to generate electricity. We could reduce deforestation and actually plant more trees, which would increase photosynthesis and therefore the uptake of carbon dioxide by plants, reducing the amount that's in the atmosphere. And we could also do things like car shares, or using more public transport, or cycling places, or using electric cars, as petrol comes from fossil fuels, and so burning it produces more carbon dioxide and nitrous oxide, which are both greenhouse gases.